Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. You're in my tiny shop. I'm going to do some reviews on the three blades that I've primarily used for my business over the last few years. And initially I started with Freud. I just heard wonderful things about them. And it is a nice blade if you're used to your standard hardware store variety. It's a step up from that. Then I found out about Forest as I became more familiar with woodcraft. They really talk well about this blade and it is wonderful. I'm glad I own this blade. And then after having a Festool Capex miter saw for a while, I realized my only options were the Festool brand blade and this company called Tenryu out of Japan. So I bought one of those blades for my Capex and loved it so much that I found a combo blade for my table saw. And this has become my go-to blade for almost every single scenario. So I'm going to break down what's great about each of these blades and what's not great about some of these blades in various scenarios based on the most common cutting situations that I encounter. Primarily I'm doing hardwoods and cabinetry, so I do a combination of MDF, hardwood, plywood, and every once in a while I get into Trex. I don't do decks, but I do custom handrails for decks, and that's often a request. So we're going to start with cut finish. And the main reason this is my go-to blade is it cuts as smooth as glass. As soon as I found how smooth this blade cuts, I got rid of my ripping blades. This is a combo blade and it cuts smoother and faster than any of the ripping blades I've ever owned. I don't have one of their ripping blades, so I don't have that to compare, but I've never found the need to. And I'm cutting all the way up to 8/4 stock, which is, almost 2 inches thick once you have it planed down. So that's amazing about this blade. I'll just go ahead and talk about all the details of each blade independently, and then we'll compare them with something I wrote down on a matrix. Cut speed, I give it a 9 out of 10. And it is, while it is very fast when you first have it sharpened, once it's in its sort of middle age phase, it is not quite as fast as the Forest, but it is very quick as long as it's sharp and clean. So I give that one a 9 out of 10. Burn marks, it's rarely causing burn marks, but if you don't keep it clean, and it does have a little bit less space between the width of the carbide tip and the blade surface itself than the Forest does, so it does get gunked up a little bit faster. You can end up with some minor burning, but it is minimal. Stays clean, same sort of topic. It stays clean much better than the Freud because it does have a better offset between the carbide and the blade itself. But it does gunk up a little bit faster than the Forest. Not a big issue though. I clean it probably after every major job. Stays sharp, 9 out of 10. I rarely have to sharpen this blade. I probably get, if I keep it clean and I do my part, I can get almost a year out of one of these blades without having to sharpen it. And that's something, because I work on these blades almost every day. So that's really one of the things I love about this blade. Composites. Now, when I say composites, I'm not talking about Trex. I'm talking about I'm not talking about MDF. I'm talking about Trex. This blade dulled extremely quickly when I just recently used it on Trex. Therefore, I don't recommend it for something like that. It just doesn't have the aggressiveness that it needs. But I think that's partially because it's such a glass smooth. It's more like a finished blade, even though it's a combo blade. So maybe a 5 out of 10. Effort to use in terms of pushing it through, it is like butter as long as you keep it clean. So 9 out of 10. Price, it's pretty cheap for what you get. I think they're about $120 right now. I think I paid $110 not too long ago, or the last time I bought these, which is probably 2 to 3 years ago. And so it's, for what it does, it is a great price. Not the cheapest, but great price for what it is. I probably should have put one more category in here, and that is the saw kerf is a little bit thinner in here, and I actually like that. It just creates a little bit less sawdust, a little bit less waste. And as long as you have a digital measuring setup on your table saw, it's pretty easy to compensate for that different kerf. It's not exactly an eighth. I think it's 0.11 inch instead of 0.125. So, number 1 blade, Tenryu. Number 2 blade, Forest. Now, I guess I probably should have done these backwards and started with low to high, but I just love the gold medal, or the Tenryu gold medal. Now this is the Forest Woodworker 2, same number of teeth, same category of blade, cut and finish. And the reason I don't use this very often is it's just not a very smooth cutter. I give it about a 5 out of 10. And so What I save this blade for is if I'm cutting through some really thick stock because it's very aggressive. It also works great on Trex, does not dull it very quickly. And I think a lot of that has to do with how, you have a full curve 1/8 inch carbide tip on here and still a pretty narrow plate, almost as narrow as the Tenru. So there's a pretty strong offset. It clears the waste pretty quickly. So there's very little friction with this, which also makes it cut very fast. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 on cutting fast, 10 out of 10 on burn marks, stays clean and stays sharp. I've only sharpened this blade one time, and I probably didn't even need to do that. I got it sharpened because I thought that's why it didn't cut very smooth. Turns out it's just the nature of the blade. It's not a super smooth cutter. I probably didn't need to get it sharpened, and I've had this blade for several years. So as long as you don't cut through metal and you keep the pitch off of it, these are very great blades to have, especially if you don't have a sharpener nearby. Composites, very good score. I give that an 8 out of 10. Effort, very little effort because it just stays sharp. 10 out of 10. And price, very expensive. These are almost $200. I think I paid $175 at Woodcraft. So not quite as high in the value category as the Tenru. Onto the Freud. Again, much better than your garden variety at the hardware store. Cut finish is actually pretty good. It's an 8 out of 10. It beats the Forest. I would recommend this if you only have a little bit of finish cutting to do, or if you're just doing composites and no hardwood. This is a great option because it's pretty affordable. Cut speed, 6 out of 10. I think there's just not much relief. It's a very thick plate relative to the width of the kerf, and so there's just not much space between the kerf and the blade disc, and so that causes friction. You can actually see, and oftentimes it leaves red marks on your work, which is kind of annoying because it has this branding color on it. Now they market that as, makes it smoother, but it doesn't really, and it just makes a bunch of red marks. Burn marks, it also does, because again, it just doesn't have that relief that you need. Does not stay clean very easily. You have to clean this thing very frequently. Does not stay sharp very well friction is your number one enemy with staying sharp. So I give this a 4 out of 10 on staying sharp. So you end up spending, if you're doing a lot of work, this blade's actually going to cost you more than either of these because you're going to sharpen them a lot and you're going to have to replace them. This is my third one of these, I think, before I finally said the hell with it and got the Forest and then eventually got the Tenru. So definitely don't recommend this for staying sharp. I would not use it on composites. It'll dull extremely quickly. It does require more effort than the other two due to the friction, 5 out of 10. And price, pretty reasonable. I think I paid $75-80 for this, so give that an 8 out of 10. And I'm gonna show you guys how that all breaks down right here. You can see on my little matrix, I apologize for the lack of high technology here, how they rank. You can see if you just break it down by numbers, the Forest comes out on top overall with an 8.5 versus an 8.125 over the Tenru, but if the finish quality is important to you, then definitely the Tenru is the winner. I think it's a great combo to have the Tenru for most of your work and the Forest for the things that are a little bit more heavy duty requiring, or a little heavy duty but demanding. Or if you just don't do too much work, get one of the two, whether it's the Tenru for the finer finish or the Forest for just faster cutting, not having to sharpen it, but then, if you don't mind using a joiner or sander to clean up those edges, then the Forest would be a good way to go. Anyway, hope you guys liked that video. If you want to see more of these, let me know in the comments. If you have any requests, I have a full shop of tools that I can review and give you my thoughts and opinions on after several years of professional use, heavy duty work every day, what I recommend. I also have a lot of videos on how to do things, whether it's shop related, mechanical for the truck, etc. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Have a conversation with me. I'm pretty quick to respond, and please subscribe and share this video. Take care, guys.